Welcome to League Express. We're talking about the Challenge Cup final this Saturday. Martyn, obviously a massive game, West Yorkshire derby.
It's a terrific game in prospect, John, and it's one of those great games where, you know, we're not quite sure what the result should be. I mean, I think the bookies are favouring Leeds, aren't they, quite strongly? But I wouldn't be so sure. I think the Tigers this year have shocked everybody throughout the season. They've shown they can beat anybody. They've beaten all the big teams, and let's not forget, in an earlier round in this competition, they won at Wigan. So, you know, nothing could be a bigger shock than that. And if Leeds go into this game thinking they're automatically going to blitz Castleford, I think that could be a big mistake on their part.
Definitely. I think you look at Leeds, they've got the experience, they've been there before, they've got that core of veteran players who are, you know, successful, and Castleford, such a new young team, so exciting, so vibrant, and they're just really, they play with so much confidence, so much flair, and they're just very exciting to watch.
They are, and I think the cast supporters will play a part as well. I think there are going to be a lot of them there. They'll give great support on Saturday. I think most of the neutrals as well, to be fair, will probably favour Castleford as well, so they'll get a lot of support in the stadium. The really interesting thing is that Leeds have lost their last 6 Challenge Cup finals. You know, you've got players like Kevin Sinfield and all the other guys. They've never won the Challenge Cup final, and they've made it very clear that this year they're totally single-minded about wanting to win the Challenge Cup. It's their priority in 2014. The trouble with that is that they might almost focus on it too much, mightn't they, if they're not careful. It may become such an obsession that if things don't go right from the start of the game, they may start to panic. Who knows? You know, it's difficult to sort of understand what effect that sort of repeated failure since their last one in 1999 might have had. What effect it might have had on them. The Tigers, on the other hand, have not been to Wembley since 1992. They lost to Wigan that year, as everybody used to do in those days when Wigan were, you know, in their pomp. So they've not really got any baggage for this game. The problem they might face is a different one to Leeds, though, because of course, when you've not been to Wembley for a long time and they've never played at the new Wembley Stadium, there is the danger that when they get there, they're going to be overawed by it. You know, it's a fantastic thing walking out in front of that enormous crowd, 80 or 90,000 people. You know, it's very easy to imagine that some players who are not mentally prepared for that event could freeze on the day, and I think that's going to be a big danger. I'm fairly sure that Darryl Powell will be well aware of that and will have taken steps to try to ensure it doesn't happen. But you can never be absolutely sure, you know, until you actually get there on the day, can you?
No, there's that old adage that you need to lose one before you win one.
That's what they sometimes say.
Yeah, so Leeds having lost 6 could definitely be due. But I think it's Castleford have really been a fairy tale story this year. I mean, compared to where they were last year, Darryl Powell's come in full year in charge and just work wonders. They're 5th on the table and in the final. So
well, Darryl Powell looks a dead cert, doesn't he, for Coach of the Year this year?
Definitely.
That's almost a given now. The thing that Darryl Powell's done that's been so clever is, I always remember some time ago that it was Gary Hetherington actually who said to me that, you know, in the era of the salary cap, success is going to come to those clubs that can manage the salary cap well. And the thing about doing that is, if the secret of being able to get the most out of the salary cap is to get players on contracts where they actually play above the value of the contract. And this year, I think Castleford have done that very, very well indeed. They've got Liam Finn from Featherstone Rovers, a championship player, who I assume is probably not on the top whack in terms of money. They've got Mark Snyder, who's on loan from Salford, again, probably not on a massive salary, and yet those 2 players have played like players who are, you know, near the top of the salary cap, I would say. And there are several other players as well at Castleford who I think have also played above their salary cap level. And that's the achievement of Darryl Powell. He's been able to spot that sort of talent, recruiting that talent, and, you know, being able to merge them together in really what's been a great team effort throughout the year. Leeds, on the other hand, are obviously, you know, they're probably spending the maximum under the salary cap, and their players are all maximum salary cap players. You know, they've got a great squad. I think the key thing for Leeds, of course, is that their back division looks absolutely sensational and has done all year. And you've got to say that on the face of it, if Leeds are going to win the game, their backs will play a very big part in doing it. You know, you always tend to say that, you know, that the forwards win the game and the backs decide what the margin is going to be. Well, if Leeds do win it, the margin could blow out a little bit because of those brilliant players: Callum Watkins, Ryan Hall, Tom Briscoe, Joel Moon, Zach Hardacre. You know, they're all great players in their own right, aren't they? And they do look a little bit stronger on the face of it than their Castleford equivalents. Although, you know, again, Justin Kahn is going to be back for Castleford. He's going to he's going to cause all sorts of problems if he gets the ball, and you know, I'm sure he will get a lot of it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a fascinating contest.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point you make on the salary cap. I think Castleford have almost been victims of their own success because Mark's leaving,
yeah.
Darryl Clark's tipped to be leaving, Willa Haraki's also leaving, so could be now or never for Castleford. And it is really interesting that Brian McDermott's already named his team yesterday, 6 days out from the game, which I don't know if that's a little bit of mind games or he's just confident in his squad. Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, it's very interesting, this business about naming a team, because I'm a great believer in naming a team early. I always recall, you know, there are some coaches who like to keep us all guessing until an hour before the kickoff, and I tend to think that shows a certain lack of confidence in your players. That you don't want to reveal who's going to be in your team because you're perhaps lacking in confidence that, you know, they can really deliver the goods on the day. It's good to see Brian McDermott naming his team, and you know, I hope Darryl Powell does the same thing. Now, as we speak, Darryl hasn't done that yet, but you know, you've got to have confidence in your squad, and if you're only confident enough to name your team an hour before the kickoff, it tends to show that you're, you know, just lacking in a little bit of you know, sustained confidence in the squad that you've got.
And there is that doubt over Craig Hubie. I think it'll be unlikely that he will play, but
I'd be
they're
amazed.
giving him every opportunity.
I'd be very surprised if he did play. A dislocated, you know, it's a dislocated elbow that really is a very difficult injury actually, and it's not one that tends to go right. You know, it's not one that can be cured too quickly, I don't think. And I would, unless they're absolutely 100% sure with Craig Hubie, I don't see how they can be. Big risk, and I wouldn't do it personally.
Well, I just remember the Super League game a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, a thrilling draw. The send-off of Kevin Sinfield, which was also amazing. You don't see that every week. I can't wait for this game. Your prediction?
Well, I'd be very surprised if Kevin Sinfield gets sent off again. Put it that way. My prediction is Leeds to win. I think Jamie Peacock is going to play a big part in this game. I mean, he plays a big part in every game, but if you look at Jamie Peacock's stats, they're really incomparable with anybody else. Jamie Peacock is an absolute driving force in this Leeds side. Jamie has never won a Challenge Cup with Leeds. He did with Bradford, of course, but he's obviously not won a Challenge Cup at the new Wembley. And I think he's going to be going into this game incredibly committed and determined. And I said in League Express this week that somehow Castleford have got to find a way of dealing with Jamie. They've got to find a way of nullifying his threat, his offloading, his yardage, you know, everything that he does is tackling and so on and so forth. Because if Jamie has a big game, I think he could be one of the strong favourites for the Landstop Trophy.
I'm going with Castleford by 1 or 2 points. I think their spine is just outstanding, the form they're in. The two halves, Snade and Fenn, Luke Dawn and Darryl Clark, who's probably been the best hooker in Super League this year. So that's my pick.
It's great, and we'll both look forward to it, John, and good luck to both teams on the day.